Welcome, future teachers, on your first year semester 1 mathematics module briefing of what to expect this semester with Miss T. Vega. Welcome, student teachers. In this lesson, we'll be outlining what mathematics tertiary module to be taught and assessed on your first year module and your first semester module. What is the agenda? We are going to go through mathematics content covered in first semester year 1 according to CAPS, how they understand what is mathematics, the aims, the skills, and the content of mathematics. And Lunetta's teaching mathematics foundation and intermediate phase textbook. Also using Killen's teaching strategies for quality teaching and learning. Later on, we are going to need a literature book to teach us how to use literature to teach measurements and geometry content. Measurements is covered under chapter 12, sense of measurements for Lunetta's textbook. The first thing they mention is linking measurements with geometry and what is measurements, the developing sense of measurements, geometry, and spatial sense. What are we to learn from this whole chapter is reflect on how the role of number sense in everyday problem solving and reasoning, and describe an awareness of key ideas and strategies needed to work flexibly and confidently with numbers in a variety of forms. An example of using that chapter 12, Lunetta's chapter 12, along with a literature book, an assessment for that would be this one at hand, where they are asking you to communicate maths through literature book. That's Lunetta's page 103, highlighting the advantages integrating teaching maths with the children's literature book. So here you are to provide a mathematical idea in real content, in reality basically, giving them opportunities for a rich problem solving and giving a child an opportunity to communicate mathematically and justify their reason and gain awareness of the perspectives. It stimulates imagination and creativity. It provides a glimpse of how maths could really work in a real world and help you solve problems in the real world, and require you to identify one book that's appropriate for grade 4 and can be used to teach any relevant content. In our case, it's measurements and geometry. And once you have identified that story, provide the title, the author, the picture of the front cover with a short description of the storyline, and don't forget to reference the book at the reference list, and list the exact content in which you're going to cover from CAPS documents, and that is only under grade 4, which is page 35 to 103. You will call this CAPS specific of focus. Specificity is following the term that the work will be completed, the content area, the specific topic under the content area, the concepts and skills that your activity will focus on. Do not forget to reference and include the page numbers. Now the breakdown that will be taken from CAPS is not even further into more specific, like comp- com- components. We'll call it a summary of content to cover. An example of this information or cover might be prior knowledge, that will be a recap, and the new vocabulary they have been introduced, the number range, and the use of concrete apparatus. This is an example of how I would answer the assessment, which is communicating mathematics through literature. And the title, as they stated, the description of the literature, the first thing they asked for is the title, pastry school in Paris, an adventure in capacity, the author, the year, the content covered, and the cover page. I said they should refer to page 5. And here's the storyline. The zealous twins, Matt and Pitt, were deeply passionate about baking, and who loved baking so much that they decided to join the International Pastry Academy of Baking, and they traveled to Paris with their parents. During class, they learned the different shapes and sized containers and the basics of from 1 liter measuring jars to 500 millimeters jars. They learned value of capacity equivalence of 1 pint is equal to 2 cups, and 1 cup is equal to 125 milliliters. Half a liter is equal to 500 milliliter as a metric system of liquid measurements. This helps authentic learning as the literature implements mathematical ideas in real-life situations where the knowledge of capacity and volume can be used. In this literature story, Matt and Brett were tasked to help the chef to correctly provide measured liquids to make lollipops, which required a revision of how 1 tablespoon is equal to 2 teaspoons, and from previous use of different measuring jars. This shows the learners how their own peers in mathematical communication can be used in real life with just simple kitchen apparatus. This could be found at home, and the visual backgrounds of Paris' famous landmarks on the school windows encourages imagination, and during the lesson the general inspector oversees the class while the chef steps out. The zealous twins were assigned by the inspector to make a treat, and the twins decided to use their gained knowledge to follow the right volumes of ingredients using the correct kitchen apparatus at the right capacity. The goal to make deliciously balanced brownies, and this mathematical literature allowed learners to understand the real-life problems that can be solved using mathematical ideas. Now, the specific content of CAPS. This content was completed in grade 4 term 3, where the content area of measurements, capacity and volume as topic under the content area, and the concept of this topic is practical measurements of 3D objects through estimation, use of measurements, recording, comparing, the ordering of measuring instruments such as spoons, cups, jars in millimeters or liters. Learned the skill of problem solving within capacity and volume, context, and calculations. The book was written to support CAP's document, focusing on the story emphasizing on grade 4 term 3 measurement topic. Volume and capacity topics and skills were practical measuring of 3D shapes by estimating, as Martin Beebe had estimated that 1 pint is equal to 2 cups, measuring as the zealous twin measured liquids to make lollipops, helping the chef recording as they used the recipe to make the inspector's treat, and also comparing and ordering. Mathematics content stipulated in CAP's documents for grade 4 to 6 requires teaching learners measuring instruments, for example, measuring spoon, measuring cups, measuring jars, as the literature has accommodated that point, as zealous twins used these utilities making lollipops and the inspectors general treats. The mathematical grade 4 content approved by CAPS includes the importance of the units, which is of measuring units, which is milliliter, liters, and the calculations of problem solving, relating it to capacity, volume, and learn to convey liters to milliliters. Now, in summary of the contents to cover, you cover prior knowledge from the previous grade, where the learner is informally into CAPS, where there are studies that influence prior knowledge on learning and memory may span multiple learning processes, and the learner, where the learners worked with a liter and milliliter jars and spoon, but grade 4 content teach learners to use calibrated numbered jars and instruments. So the difference from the previous grade, that it was uncalibrated, this one is grade 4. Grade 3 is uncalibrated, grade 4 is calibrated numbered jars and instruments. This ensures practiced understanding of how much a liter and a milliliter is in relation of capacity and volume. The capacity is a measure developability of the substance, and capacity is the measurable ability to take in substance, and volume is the amount of substance when within the container. For example, a 1 liter measuring jar contains 125 liters of water, of volume of water. So it may be 1 liter, that's its capacity, but inside there's 125 milliliters of water, of volume of water. So the jar's capacity is 1 liter and the volume of water is 125. A new vocabulary of content. So for example, if a number range of 1 liter in a liter is 1000 milliliters, so how to convert milliliters to liters? You divide it by 1000. How to convert a liter to milliliters? By multiplying. For an example, 1 liter multiplied by 1000 equals 1000 milliliters. 125 milliliters divided by 1000 equals 0.125 liters. Use an estimation. Mathematic concepts for grade 4 always also requires teaching how to estimate, predict measurements of content capacity. At first glance, the teacher introduces calibrated in class and apparatus in which 1 liter jars, 5 liter bottles from home cleaning detergents, 500 milliliter water bottles as commonly seen in stores, and 2 mathematics content for grade 4 is also to require teaching on how to estimate or predict measurements. The learner has to read the calibrated line of the apparatus. As you can see, there's a beaker, the cylinder, another cylinder, and just showing a lot. The need to record measurements and content, and develop the learner's ability to find relationship between capacity and volume to help calculation and problem solving is mentioned. The advantage of using literature is that learners are engaged in the mathematical concepts, and literature involves the child in communicating mathematical concepts, visual presentations, concepts that stimulates creative imagination, and working through mathematical problems adventurous, such that a personal experience can stimulate learning as authentic learning. So it was a very innovative literature book to use to teach capacity and measurement. Still to cover, that's it for today's lesson. But if you want to learn more, there are chapters of Killings in Teaching and Learning. The first one, the upcoming video, would be using direct instruction, chapter 6, and the example of it would be a grade 4 materials around us lesson. And we are going to also teach discussion, the teaching strategies. Thank you for joining me in this lesson. The way to get started is to quit talking about it and begin doing as Disney would say himself. Thank you so much for joining me in this lesson. I am Miss Vega. My YouTube channel is Miss Team Vega. Leave a comment on what you'd like to see. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day and academic year.